So in this estimates summary sheet, so you can see that different items, estimate items have been uh, described or mentioned over here, and their estimates have been broken down into various components where applicable, such as the labor, material, equipment, and subcontract cost, and then these different components have been totaled, and then a grand total has been done. And then these sections relate with the CSI master format. In the end, we can see that there will be a subtotal, which will be the sum of all those items, plus there will be some percentage indirect overhead, and then when it is added, then 5% of that amount will be added as a profit, and then finally there will be a total bid amount. The next figure is it shows the combination of items from the estimate summary sheet, that means the previous summary sheet, and into this into items for a schedule of values. The requirements for the schedule of values on this particular project requires a punch list item of 1% of the contract amount. So 1% of each schedule of value item has been deducted and combined into a punch list line item. So the total for this work in sheet indicates the project costs without markup added at this point. Okay, so here you can see that these are the schedule of value items, and previously it was the estimating items. So estimating items and the schedule of value items may not be the same, but they may be different. Okay, and then as explained before, the some item 1% was deducted from each of these schedule of value items as the punch list items, and then that punch list item was added later on as a line item. So here the total is now 1.321 million, and previously it was 1.429 million. So there is some difference because we did not add any markup over here. Okay, rather punch list item was deducted from here due to the reason which was described before. Next is this example for a schedule of values computations for the evenly distributed markup. Actually, this figure is a progression from the previous figure, adding a distribution of the overhead and profit evenly and proportionately to each of the schedule of value items. So the right column labeled value over here will be the value shown on the schedule of values. So the total of this column is the contract amount, so which is 1.429. So which is the same as over here in the previous for the estimate. The next figure, 17.5, is the schedule of values that would be submitted to the owner for inclusion in the progress payment documentation. So the architect and the owner typically would not be aware of the computations accomplished to arrive at this schedule of values. So for example, this type of detail the contractor will not submit to the owner or the architect. because this is not needed for the owner and the architect, and also the contractor would not like that the owner should know that how they have done those estimates. So rather, the that evenly distributed profit and markup values will be submitted like this in the form of those schedule of values items. However, there can be certain variations with that as well. So, for example, 17.6 is the schedule of values computations, in which we call something like the front loaded distribution of the markup. So many contractors prefer to distribute their profit and overhead to activities that will be completed in the early phases of the project. So in this computation, profit and overheads are distributed only to the mobilization, earthwork, concrete, and masonry items. So what has been done over here is the markup and profits and the overhead costs are distributed to the earlier items. Okay, so this may be the contractor sometimes do this type of thing to get the uh, profit and markup which they will get from the whole project. They will try to get it early in the project. So that is called as the front loaded schedule. Okay. So this is then the schedule of values, front loaded distribution of profit. So this will be the schedule of values submitted to the owner in comparison with the schedule of values for evenly distributed case, that is in the 17-5. The following conclusions can be made. Okay, total amount will be same. Okay, total amount will not change in either of the schedules. So mobilization, earthwork, concrete, and masonry activities are higher on the front-loaded schedule of items because they may be come early in the project. So all other items are slightly higher on the even distribution than in the front-loaded version. So the the preparation of the schedule of values from the estimate can include many steps, and then certain steps are taken. So one of that step is the combination of items. So the schedule of values may consolidate several line items from the estimate for clarity in the schedule of values. For example, the schedule of values may list concrete as a single item. So in the contractor's estimate, several items relate to concrete. So for example, in the estimate summary shown in this figure, let me go back to this figure, 17-2, which is the estimate. 3 items relate to concrete. So with these items are 0, 1, 0, 3, 1000 here. Concrete formwork, concrete reinforcement, and cast in place concrete. So these 3 line items from the estimate total about $76,700. $76,700. So if we add up these, so it will be $76,700 for the concrete. However, when in schedule of values, these 3 items can be combined and then they will show this $76,700. So for example, over here, $76,700 as the total for this, and the one which will be submitted to the contract to the owner, yeah, it is showing $82,122. Of course, obviously this will be including the markup and the overhead cost as well, but in the original estimate it may be still $76,700. The next thing which we can observe from the schedule of values and estimates is that the separation of the lump sum items. So for example, some items, particularly subcontractor bids, combine several items into a lump sum in the estimate. So the schedule of values may require further breakdown of these items. So for example, the schedule of values requires an item for resilient flooring and another item here, resilient flooring and carpet, as the two items are over here. However, the estimate has one item, a subcontractor bid for floor covering, including both resilient flooring and carpet. So if we go to the estimate 17-2, and then it will include the, so in the estimate it will include the floor coverings, which is somewhere here. Yeah, floor covering. So this floor covering includes both the carpet and resilient flooring, which was mentioned in the schedule of values. So the lump sum item like floor covering in the estimate may be divided into proportionate amount for each item. So the subcontractors would be asked to divide the bid into two items. So the contractors often will estimate the percentage of each item based on a unit price and quantity to determine this division. The third thing which we can observe in these estimates is the distribution of overheads. Several different methods exist for distribution of overheads and non-allocated items to the items on the schedule of values. So the method used may be determined by the contractor, regulations, or local custom. Equal distribution of the overhead to the items based on the percentage is a method for allocating overhead. So as it can be seen in the figure 17-4. So with each item receiving an overhead allocation proportionate to its relative value. And then the next thing is the front loading, which we have said. So the front loading is another method for allocating overhead, is commonly referred to as the front loading. Front loading is the allocation of overhead to items that will be completed early in the project. So there are different degrees of front loading depending on the contractor and the contract conditions. This method is commonly used by contractors. As the owner is very reluctant to pay for anything that is not earned, considerable caution is used by owners, architects and engineers, and construction managers to avoid front loading. Regulations on public work may prohibit even this front loading as well. The owner and architect review the schedule of values prior to its use in progress payments. The owner may reject the schedule of values submitted and request a revision by the contractor. Common reasons for the rejection of the schedule of values include excessive front loading, insufficient detail of construction activities, and non-compliance with the contract requirements. So the total of schedule of values is the contract amount. As change orders are added to the contract, they are added to the schedule of values, usually as lump sums. Okay, so next look at the unit price contracts. Unit price contracts require that the bid be presented in unit prices for particular items of work. So these types of contracts usually are in engineering, construction, and are found frequently in public works contracts. In these contracts, the unit price breakdown is used as the schedule of values. Each unit price includes labor, material, equipment, subcontracts, direct overhead, indirect overhead, and distributed profit. Okay, we will continue this into the next lecture, next video.